I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katherine.
And we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast,
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down. Welcome back to the Healthy Hurried Human podcast. I'm Katherine.
I'm Michelle.
We're glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about fatigue and the fact that it seems to be at an all-time high. There's a lot in our world right now that just feels exhausting. I just feel like everywhere we turn, we've got fatigue facing us, and it's become a normal state of being. And we want to discuss 3 different areas that fatigue shows up, and sometimes people don't know to break it down to kind of understand which one they're dealing with, and talk about how the Healthy Hurried Human, our KFIs, our spokes on the wheel, can help maybe alleviate, identify that. So we're going to jump right in.
Yeah. It seems to me that tiredness has become this habitual thing. Like it plays into the whole healthy, hurried human thing. We've just accepted the fact that we're just going to be tired a lot most of the time. We may not say it, but it's just that I feel like it's that subconscious narrative that, and it's even become a bit performative. It seems like we feel like, hey, I'm doing a great job if I've really worn myself out. It's not a great job if we haven't, just exhausted ourselves in every way. But
that's really interesting. That would people like a badge of honor almost.
It is.
I worked so hard, I exhausted myself. So when you said performative, I started thinking about, so you're saying some people use that as an indicator that they've done a good job. They think it's a positive thing.
I think people think that, but I also think there are workplaces that are sort of constructing their culture subconsciously or either consciously. I think sometimes you can see examples of both, where in the workplace, that's sort of the subculture or the subconscious culture of, it's the conditioning inside this workplace.
Interesting.
We expect that. We expect you to stay long. And I love...
Finish that sentence. We expect you to stay...
We expect you to stay longer, work harder, be it all the media, like all of the things, that's the hidden, unspoken. But at the same time, workplaces will speak out of both sides of their mouth and saying... But, we know we really love your family.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. But yet there's that workers know where they feel the shame or the look, or I got to sneak by my manager's office when I'm coming in later. I took some time off because I wanted to be with my children at their sporting event. Or there's just the unspoken of we expect you to work harder or work longer. And then we might reward you for it versus, hey, we hired you to work within these constructs. And when you do that and do it well, we'll reward you for it. But really the unspoken is we hired you to work within this construct, but we will reward you when we see you work way outside of that construct.
So we had a situation where our leadership kept adding more to our plate. And I realized that they were out of touch with how much was already on our plate. And I bought 2 whiteboards. Well, actually, for all intents and purposes, we put things up on the walls where we listed in columns all of the responsibilities that one person in the office was responsible for, and had them break it down to the steps. Because our leadership was so far removed from the actual practice that when they said, hey, I need you to take on this, or we had a person who had to leave, or a reduction of workforce, and jobs had to be absorbed. Right, people had to absorb their other people's jobs, and for the leadership, it was, okay, this is covered and this is covered. And it was a checklist of who's going to be now held responsible or accountable or going to oversee these things. And they didn't factor in the workload. And when they would come to me and say, this is now a top priority for you. I remember sitting in one meeting where somebody said, you can't have 5 top priorities.
Right.
Like that's illogical. But the pressure that the leadership was having, but these are priorities. Like we need a lot of focus, but that's not practical. All that is pressure. And that pressure is fatiguing because even if I ran on the hamster wheel all the time, I wasn't going to be able to execute quality.
Yeah, of course.
And meet all of them. And I'm not talking about the one-off situation where I was asked to give a presentation to the board and I had 3 minutes and I had to take this much content, reduce it into 3 minutes, giving the board what they needed.
This episode of the Healthy Hurried Human podcast is sponsored by Midlife Thrives. Midlife Thrives is for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s navigating perimenopause and menopause. If you've felt the energy dips, the mood swings, or the brain fog that make you wonder if you're losing yourself, you're not alone. Midlife Thrives is here to help give you clarity, resources, and a supportive circle of women who get it. No quick fixes, no shame, just some real guidance for real life. Learn more and connect at midlifethrives.com because thriving in midlife isn't optional, it's your new standard.
And I knew it wasn't going to happen in 3 minutes. So I decided to make a 11-page handout, which meant I had to reach out to a different organization to get content. Anyway, so that night I worked till 9 o'clock at night, went home, memorized my script until 11 o'clock that night. Like we're not talking the one-off project where because you're getting something special. It was a great privilege to get asked to give a presentation to the board of directors. So that we're not talking the one-off project that maybe you have to put more time into.
Yeah, of course. We're talking about this is regular. It's interesting because I want to break the fatigue down into 3 different areas, but it's coming up more and more. Just this week, I've had 2 pretty deep conversations. And interestingly enough, they were both in the industry of education. And one is public and one is private. And one person may be losing their job after they have just, her role is for fundraising for the private. That is her role. She is there to get donors to donate to the school, created a gala where they raised over $1 million. But in it, the head of school had her doing marketing, had her doing about 5 different things that are outside of her role as the fundraiser, and pulled it off. But then because she hired somebody to come in to do some of these, like marketing, which is not her role. She doesn't understand design and all of those, all of that kind of stuff, is being questioned because they're something that was ever acceptable before. And it's because the head of leadership doesn't understand what it took to pull off a gala where you raise $1 million.
Well,
and then in public education, the complaint right now is they continue to add and add and add to what they think the teachers need to be doing, to the point that teachers, it's not, it used to be that they have to go home and grade papers. They don't, they get to teach all day and then go home and grade papers, but
and write lesson plans.
But now it's so much more than that because of so much oversight and legalities that have come into education. But instead of pulling in people who that could be their job, it's, well, let's just put that on the teachers. Everything is on the teachers. And
another one of the people that we talk to frequently, that we help frequently, is a pretty important nurse in a hospital.
Right.
And because of legality, because of things that they're trying to better practices, the answer always seems to be, we'll get the nurses to do this.
Yeah.
And the amount of time, not just the charting, but then they are trying to upskill them they've brought in a program that's on a computer that they have to now go in and fill out, which means rounds are done different. And they keep adding procedures for the purposes of insurance, purposes of oversight in the hospital, and it seems to all be hitting on the nursing level. And it's exhausting.
I guess that's the part of me with industry, is understanding that they kind of pick their main line of delivering, like in healthcare, who is delivering the majority of the healthcare? nurses. Who in teaching, who is delivering,
or PAs, it depending if it's certain practices.
But it's that main level of delivery in education. The main level of delivery are your teachers.
Well, and in businesses, it's middle management, because we've talked about
your sales team.
It goes to die at a certain level.
That's right.
If it can't be executed the way leadership thinks. I've passed it to the person who's going to take it and move it forward. But at every one of these turns, interestingly enough, I keep saying, hey, people in our company did not do this level of work because they were really good at computers.
Tired teams don't just need another training. They need transformation. The Healthy Hurried Human Lab helps organizations build emotionally fit, resilient, and connected teams that perform better without burning out. This interactive training goes beyond theory, combining organizational psychology with personal appraisal that helps every participant understand how their mental, emotional, and relational habits show up at work. When people grow, companies thrive. Book your Healthy Hurried Human Lab for your teams today at foxygenconsulting.com and start creating healthier, more human workplace.
And yet what we're asking them to do is use computers more and more and more. And it's that at every level, my conversation is, they didn't get into this job because they were good at computers.
Right, because it's a trade industry.
Mm-hmm. or even a nursing industry. My friend did not go into nursing because she was great at computers.
Right.
And now so much of that, and she understands capturing data and doing different things like this, but there are, at every job, when I was managing a retail store, I had to fill out a schedule. I had to put they were paid hourly. We had to fill out an hourly schedule, and everyone has a life outside of their work. Some people, it was just a part-time job. I had one lady who her daughter went to a specialty school that was right down the street from our store, and she could only work during the day, Monday through Friday. That's it. I couldn't put her on a Saturday or a weekend. Then I had other people who could only work at night, and it was every time it was shuffling the schedule. Well, now with the healthcare client that we were talking about, they have to go online and put in their requested schedule, and the computer shuffles some of the things, and then a human makes the decision over who they're going to put into which pocket. And the question is it objective or subjective? And how do you choose that this person wants to take a 3-week vacation and this person has a personal anniversary? And it boils down to who plays the social game better.
Yeah.
And who they like better. I think
we're going to see this is going to get worse with the more we see AI getting involved.
Well, you and I have been talking about this, about the importance of AI as well as the
disconnect that it's
because AI, they've learned this I know the military learned this. I've read books about this. There is an intuition that humans have, a gut reaction and intuition that you cannot train an AI to have. They can only react the way that they're programmed.
So let's dive into what are I love this because this is going to help you as a listener understand and have clarity to your fatigue, because I think when we understand where the fatigue is resonating from, then we can address it versus throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which is, I'm just going to get rid of everything. I'm going to stop everything. I'm going to go hide however we tend to respond, because we don't know exactly where the pain or the fatigue or what the distress, the discomfort is coming from. When we don't know, then we kind of tend to shut all systems down. And so that's why I like the fact that we're breaking this down. So there's cognitive fatigue. This is the endless meetings and the decision overload, the task switching, the idea that we need to have mental toughness all the time. And
what does that even mean?
Leaders and employees both confuse speed with productivity. And I think the person shaking their head the most listening to that would be your Salesforce type people, the people who it's up to them to bring the sales into a company would say 100% my company sees speed as being productive versus that's not always. And speed is what causes the brain to constantly, I think women, because we always have 18 tabs open at one time and we have 8 plates spinning. It's that thing of checking did I do that on this in this level? Because we don't compartmentalize as well as men do. And so we're constantly checking and we're doing it quickly. And so that creates this mental, like your brain is just tired. Mm-hmm. The mental fatigue is strong, and understanding that I need to shut my brain off. I need to shut my brain down. I need to give it a time. And I think a lot of people walk around thinking that sleep is going to do that.
Well, sleep does do that, but we're also not getting good sleep.
Right.
We've got the TV on. We've got...
Sleep does that if we have shut the system down.
Okay.
Because what happens when we sleep and we don't shut the system down is when you're getting the weird dreams. Dreaming is good. It's a good sign of sleep, but it's when you're waking up from the dreams, when you wake up and can remember and really tell a full story of a dream. Oftentimes that's in a lighter state of sleep. Is my understanding. But when we don't shut down the brain, so I remember years ago when I first opened my home practice, I was taking, because I had small children, so I would stack my night. I was doing a lot of nighttime counseling, and I would literally make 10 o'clock session times. And have people come who loved it because their kids were home, their kids were in bed, and they could come and do their therapy. And I learned that once I was done at 11 p.m., not to go straight to bed, even though that's where I wanted to go, because then I would be I'd have these weird dreams about my patients, and it weirded me out. That was not what I wanted. I don't want that. And so I learned I have to do something to shut my brain down before I go to sleep.
So could you say that for cognitive, if we were to take it to the workforce, is this the same thing as like a debrief meeting after a project? Is this the way of like, are we talking about?
I think that can be an element of it for sure. But in the workplace, I think it's important for there to be the shift from work. So whether if you commute, not continuing your phone calls, like a lot of people will leave the office. I'll call them when I get in the car, and on my way home, I'm going to then they get into home and they have not made a shift and they haven't shut the system down on work.
So you're talking about transitions.
Transitions is part of it, yes.
And so we need to have a time. Well, okay. So do we want to talk in depthly like about these, or do you want to go to the next one?
Let me go to the next one.
Okay.
Then you could, if you have questions or something, we can come back to it. But so that's cognitive fatigue. The emotional fatigue is it's where we feel the pressure, the obligation to show up positive or to show up at all. It's when we are driven by our feelings, constantly having to feel. I mean, emotional fatigue. Here's a real good example of it, but most people don't live in this all the time, is when we're grieving and you're just like, I just don't want to grieve it. Like I need a break from this because grief is so heavy. And so, but what we don't realize is that we're carrying that kind of heavy emotional fatigue all the time because we feel obligated to show up or to be to relationships or to our work. We put that emotional weight on ourselves. I think we can sense when our managers are lacking compassion for the things that we're taking on and not understanding why we're not getting certain things done, or maybe we haven't done it in the timely fashion, or understanding the scope of the work that we have. And so that can create the emotional fatigue for us because we aren't getting the emotional input that we feel like we need to have. So there's emotional fatigue, and then there's relational fatigue, and we get that from being on all the time. You bring this up a lot in how the world has changed, because when my parents went to work, when they left work, if somebody at work wanted to they probably had to go find their file to say what's their home phone number. And then that's how they got.
And somebody had to be there to answer the phone.
And somebody had to be there to answer the phone.
They didn't have voicemails, and they didn't have.
And you hope it's not dinner time when the parents have taken the phone off the hook, so that dinner time couldn't be
interrupted.
Mm-hmm. But now we have Slack and email and social and Monday apps, and we have all the apps to keep us connected constantly. And part of that is we do it to ourselves. Recently, I think I sent it to you, where a manager or a new leader came in and sent an email at midnight and said, here's what I'm asking everybody to do. And then he ended the email with, if you're reading this, I wrote this email at a time that worked for me. And if you are reading this email at a time that works for you, I want you to know the expectation is we will deal with this tomorrow. I wanted to cheer. I don't know who this person was. I just saw a picture of it, and I thought, there it is. That is a person who's tuning in to say, because I've told you, sometimes I work really better at the off hours, on the weekends at night, from my bed. But I love that he sent them, hey, look, I'm doing this because it works for me, and you're reading it when it works for you. But the expectation is we're going to do this within the constructs of our working time. And so that's all. I don't want you to read the email and then do something about it right now. Or even, you're expected to check your email at 9 p.m. I feel like that is somebody who's paying attention to the emotional and the relational. That's a leader who's paying attention to the emotional and relational fatigue that workers take on, because we are always connected.
So there are a couple of words that recently we've had in conversations, and one is compassion fatigue. And that is a lot of times your healthcare workers, your caregivers, different people that have to deal with really people who are going through really hard times, and that compassion fatigue. There's decision fatigue that's hitting at a leadership level. Although, like, you may be in a time in your personal life where you just have to make a lot of decisions really quickly, like buying a new house, renovating something, moving, a big transition in your life where you have to make a lot of decisions, and it can be overwhelming.
I would put that under decision fatigue. I'd put that under cognitive. Compassion fatigue, I put that under our emotional fatigue, because whenever it's where the feelings are involved, that's where you're fatigued. If it's your constant cerebral, that's your cognitive. Relational, we know that. We know when we are relationally fatigued by people.
Well, and I'm just going to throw this out there. We're recording this in October, and the holidays are coming up, and a lot of relational fatigue happens with families and people that we don't have to see all the time. There is political and fatigue right now. There's financial fatigue right now. There's a lot of ways that we feel this. We're running out of time. We're over time right now, but I really like the fact that we give people answers. What are some answers to fatigue?
So I want to micro shift. I love micro shift, micro habit. We're going to get to that. And so I never want people to be overwhelmed by, you need to make big sweeping changes, big commitments to your life, because the human brain will resist that, and it will cause you to feel like a failure. Then we create a shame cycle. So I'm a big cheerleader for make some small changes. So cancel unnecessary meetings. Give yourself 1 hour just to think a week. this was big in the early 2000s where people would block off certain times to just go sit in a room and let their brain think about whatever they wanted to without trying to control it. People were like, well, that's meditating. It's not meditating. It's literally saying, I never get to think about stuff because I'm always shooing it away because this is where I need to focus. And we do that on a regular basis where something comes into our mind, we shoot it away because right now that's not what I'm doing. I am doing this. And it's like, give yourself an hour a week, or if it's easier for you to give yourself 15 minutes a day. Or how about this? I don't want to be crass, but it dawned on me the other day. Stop taking your phone to the bathroom, because that is where a lot of thinking can happen. I think about it now in the habits that we have of where we're playing something while we're taking a shower or we're listening to a podcast. I would love for you to listen to our podcast in the shower, but maybe don't. The time we spend in the bathroom, don't have stuff coming, like make that a habit of, hey, just because we brush our teeth, we do a lot of things in the bathroom, but we're not in there we shouldn't be in there for hours on end. But how about you take the bathroom and say, the bathroom, I'm not going to take any sort of outside.
Well, I will say this, that I have learned that music, like without words, music does something, it wires the brain, triggers neurological connectivity differently than talking. And if you can't go dead quiet, you could just play some music.
Music without words is very important.
Music without words. And classical music really does.
It calms the brain. You're not...
The way the brain processes it. And I was listening to a person talk about the fact that there's a fight for eyes. People want you to look at their stuff and hear their stuff and do all this stuff. You have a world out there that is marketing. They want you to listen to what they have to say. You are constantly being fed information all the time. You can't ride down the road without a billboard or a bumper sticker, or, you're constantly, people are trying to get your attention.
Yeah. And
the time that we sit in quiet with just music that doesn't have words, with our eyes closed, it does rewire the brain. And they're doing a lot more studies on how we are creating dopamine hit addictions. But the fact is that they are draining us.
They're draining us.
And there's that fatigue that comes, social media fatigue that comes with that fear of missing out, or just what if I miss that information? But it really is having a negative effect, and it is rewiring our brains.
So it's not going to help people for me to say, stop scrolling, put timers on. We all know all those things. But what I would say, and this is something I'm trying to put into my life as far as what can we do? Because listen, I want people to understand, being fatigued is not a personal flaw. It's just an organizational symptom, but we have to be aware of it. And so then you add some of these small things to it, like, canceling your meetings, giving yourself time to think. Maybe stop taking your phone to the bathroom. No matter what you're doing in the bathroom, you're not going to be in there forever. Stop having that in there. And then here's something I've been trying to do. When I get in the car, I tell myself, because I hate being in the car and having nothing. But I'm like, 10 minutes, Michelle, 10 minutes. No matter how long this car ride is, 10 minutes. Let's just drive. No radio, no phone, no Marco, no anything. 10 minutes just to let your brain go and be and do whatever. And it's amazing what I start doing. I start noticing the leaves, how beautiful the sky is. And that is so good for our brain. And 10 minutes is not hard. And then if you're a leader, I just want to say this to you. If you're a manager, if you lead in any way and you have people you're influencing, I'd love for you to gather them together, because this is going to make you a compassionate leader. I want you to ask your team what's wearing you out, what's wearing us out, and listen to what they have to say. It may be, hey, we have a meet. I know my husband, what he would say, he's like, they never give us enough time to get our stuff done, because they're constantly wanting to fill the free time. And it's
the other thing is, you may find out they don't have the right training or the right tools to do their job.
Ask them that question, and it's amazing what you will learn. So I'm going to leave it there because we could probably do a whole nother episode on this.
We can. I also want to say that if you're really feeling fatigue, find something that's a win. Give yourself a win and find something to celebrate because you need that.
We're going to celebrate your 2-year anniversary at Foxygen.
I can't wait.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is brought to you by Foxygen Consulting and a handful of silent sponsors who believe in this work and quietly keep us going. We see you, we thank you, and we are glad that you're part of this journey.